and also to learn the interpretation of ground penetrating radar and looking at these types of scans. Ideally, you should have had formal training on the equipment itself or had a relevant experience of using this equipment in the past. This is just a video just to show you this particular model, make and model from Hilti for their PS1000 X-Scan. This video doesn't replace the manufacturer's instructions, so as always please have a read of that before you do effectively use the equipment. This is just a guide of the system and what comes with the system and how it basically works. Okay, so we've got our Hilti PS1000, comes in a nice big luggage case on wheels. Alright, so obviously when you're about to use it, obviously unlock the keys on the front and we'll open up the box here. Alright, so to look at the box, we've got lots of things included inside it, but we'll start with the roof of the actual box here. Alright, so if we pop the clips down on this, we'll be able to see on the inside of here, we've got lots more information and lots more things in the roof of here. So, first compartment we've got here, at the top of here, is a set of earphones and obviously ear covers. Alright, so those are to be used if obviously you're in a really loud area and you can't hear the unit beeping when you're using it. Obviously you can plug in the earphones to the actual PS1000 itself and have those on, so obviously you can hear any alerts. In the second compartment here we've got our transfer data cable. Alright, so obviously that can be used to transfer the data from the PS1000 to the PSA tablet, which I'll go through in a bit. Right, so that's the manual way of doing it as well. Alright, and if we look in this last compartment here, we've then got a USB with the manuals on and the software on as well for the Profis software that comes with the kit, and also we've got a card reader as well. Alright, that's there for the fact that obviously within the PS1000 unit itself it's got an SD card in there, so you can, if you want to, when you've done all your scanning of all your projects for the whole day or the job that you're doing, you can ultimately turn the unit off, remove the SD card, obviously put that into here and then transfer your data onto your laptop to use with the Profis software as well. Alright, so that's on there for that as well. We've also then got the instruction manual and also the more in-depth instruction manuals for each part of the kit, so for the actual unit PS1000 itself and also for the PSA tablet as well, there as well. Okay, so they're there to have a read of as well before you use the kit. In the lid of this you'll see we've got some grids. Alright, so they're there for the actual unit when you're doing grid scans, and you can see I've got an example behind me of the 600 by 600 grid scan. So if you were doing a scan on a wall or on a piece of concrete, you would ultimately stick this onto the concrete that you're scanning and sit that on the concrete to use with the PS1000. We've got quite a few of those in here. There's normally about 2 or 3 in there, and also we've got a bigger 1200 by 1200 grid scan there as well. There's normally about 2 or 3 there as well for that as well. Alright, so you've got enough to do bigger areas if you are covering a huge area where you need to scan. So if I then fold it back up again and put the clip onto there, I'll now go into the bottom of the box and we'll have a look and see what we've got here. So main thing we've got here is the PSA 200 tablet. Alright, so this is there for use so that if whilst you're on site you want to use the Profis software that comes with the equipment, and you could then potentially do a scan with the PS1000, and then you can ultimately then connect it up to the tablet that's got the Profis software installed on it and have a look at all the drawings and the CAD drawings and everything and the 3D slice view of all the scans you've done on there. Alright, so that's what that PSA 200 tablets there for the guy that's working on the site that then wants to be able to look at the data he's scanned during that day and wants to look at it in much more depth, but being on site and not being in the office. Alright, in the case as well we also get obviously a roll of tape to be able to stick our grids up onto the concrete or the walls or whatever you're doing. We also get a secondary battery, alright, so one fully charged and one in the unit ready to use. We've then got our charging lead for our PS1000 to be able to charge the batteries up, alright, and then we've got one charging lead for the PSA 200 tablet as well to be able to charge that as well. We also have one of these brushes in here. That brush is to be used on the unit for the wheels. So obviously when you put it on some dusty and dirty sites, the wheels can get impacted, so that brush is there to remove all of that debris or muck that you might come across whilst in use. We take the actual PS1000 out, that's that there. Just to look in the bottom of the case here as well, we've got some other accessories in here as well. We've also got some marker pens here, obviously, so when you're marking it on the actual wall itself, you can use that to mark where you've detected something. So there's a supply of those in the bottom of the box as well, alright, for you to be able to use and mark on the wall. Okay. Now, if we then look at the actual PS1000 itself, alright, so this is the PS1000. You can see if we look at it in a bit more detail, obviously we've got our 4 wheels on the bottom, and that's where the GPR, the radar, comes out of there, and that's what that brush is there for. Obviously, so if it is compounded in some way, you can just give the wheels a good clean before use, so you know that they're clean and it's not going to stop you or hinder you when scanning on the concrete or anything like that. So if we look around the unit, obviously we've got our battery compartment in there. Obviously that just slides in and clicks into place. Okay. If we go over this other side, we've then got a section where we've got the SD card in there as well. Alright, so that's where we take that out, and if you wanted to put that into the card reader and transfer the data across that way, you can do that like that. On the other side of it, we've got a connection point for that transfer cable I spoke about earlier in the lid. So that'll plug into there, and then it'll plug into the USB side on the actual tablet. Okay, and then obviously if we go around again, we've got the handle point, which is obviously what we're using when we're scanning, and then we've got our red buttons either side of the handle, so that when you're holding it against the wall like that and you want to start a scan, you can press that red button and it will beep at you and confirm that it's actually scanning as you're moving across. Okay, so if we look at the front of it, obviously we've got lots of screens here. You can press the on button there, this will power up now. And on the front of this here, we've got obviously our buttons down the left hand side corresponding to what we're going to choose on screen. And on the right hand side here, we've got our up, down, left, right buttons, OK buttons, and a home button to take you back to the home screen as well. Alright. Once this is loaded up, obviously you'll be able to then crack on and do your project, whatever you're doing in regards to scanning. All right. Now there's a couple of different ways that you can use this X-Scan depending on what type of job you're doing. All right. If you're doing just a quick image scan, I'll just accept disclaimer on there. All right. So the main two things that we see used by this is the quick scan detector, which is giving you a live idea of what's behind the concrete that you're scanning ultimately at that point. Alright, so it's basically where you know, say for example you're scanning for rebar or something like that in concrete, you have a rough idea of where it is, but you're just going to scan along in a straight line. Alright, so to do that, what we would do is we would select quick scan detection, and it then gives up these two levels on the screen. So you can see the bottom half of the screen is giving you what's the depth and down into the ground, and the top half of the screen is giving you an overview of what you've scanned. Alright, so if I, for example, take this back to here now and put this on here for starters, I can then push that and then click the red button to record, and obviously it'll move along. As I'm moving along, it's showing me on the screen here what could possibly be below the surface. Alright, when I'm finished, I've just hit the stop button there, and then obviously what it's then giving you on the screen there, as you can see, that's your depth view obviously in regards to that. So it'll go down to 300 mil it's set at the moment. You can set it to 400 mil, and obviously that's giving you an overview of what you've come across and scanned. Obviously this is ultimately where you rely back to your GPR training and your interpretation of what's coming out on screen, to then be able to confidently say, yes, that is rebar, or yes, that is underfloor heating, or something like that. All right, that's what that quick scan is allowing you to do. It's showing you the data for you to then interpret, to say, I know where that is. I can mark that on the concrete. That is where the rebar is, or that is where the underfloor heating is, and then I can mark it and then avoid it, right? Because that's what ultimately they're trying to do, is avoid striking those pipes or that rebar in the concrete. When we've done that and we've finished that quick scan, the other way we can do this is image scan. Alright, So image scan is using the grid, all right, behind me. So you can see there, if I show that to you close enough situation, we should be able to see it. There we go. So we've got our grid there, so it's effectively telling us what to do on a particular grid. So I've set this to the 600 by 600 mil, so I'm now going to do a scan across and downwards on this 600 by 600 grid. Okay, so what I'll do on that is ultimately I've got two notches here, top and bottom, which I'll line with the first lines of our scan. All right, and on screen it's giving me that red arrow to say right, move across, and I will hit the red button, and you've got the audible sound there, and I'll move it across, and it shows me on the screen it's moving across, and I get to the end, it tells me, gives me a beep, and it then tells me to go down to the next one. I do the same again, across to the end, wait for the beep, same again, down below, red again, wait for the beep, down to 4, always making sure those notches are level with where you're scanning, it's so we can give it a good picture when you've scanned it. When you've done that, you then go vertically. So again, we're doing the same again. This is the function of having the buttons both on the top and the bottom. So we scan all the way down there, wait for the beep. Line 6, all the way down. Line 7. And again, that's that full scan done now. So that's now developed that all into the information for that 600 by 600 mil grid. All right, and that's then for you to interpret that data. What you can then do is you can then use the Profis software that's supplied with the unit to then download all the data and look at it in much more detail using CAD drawings, 3D slices. It allows you to really look into the scans in a lot more data. So if you are planning a job and you're doing this scan of this site many weeks before the job's to start, you would go along with the PS1000, you would scan all the areas you wanted to do, and then you could then take the unit back to the office and then download all the data, all the scans that you've done, all the grids that you've done, and then to be able to give a good 3D depiction of what levels, what rebar or what underfloor heating is in those sections of concrete, and the depth slices of them and where they sit in that section of concrete. So it's a really good, useful ground penetrating radar tool. Okay. And that's basically it. That's the PS1000 and what it does and how it works. Alright, so hopefully that's given you a good idea and a good product familiarisation on the PS1000.